Believe it or not, it's now been 45 years since Alien first came out. And I think we can all agree that the movie is considered by everybody pretty much not only one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time, but an all-around masterpiece. But there is one thing about the discussion that we've been having about Alien that kind of bothered me a little bit. And it's the fact that Alien went down in history as primarily a Ridley Scott achievement. Many would claim that it was Scott that really elevated the movie past its B-movie status, that without Ridley Scott, not just his direction, but his contribution to the production, Alien would have just been another creature movie, another B-movie. And I think this is dismissive of the incredible work that Dan O'Bannon and Roland Shusett did on the screenplay of Alien, as proven by the fact that, if you think about it, no movie that came after Alien in the franchise, including Aliens, which is a movie that I absolutely adore, but no other movie kind of capture a specific quality of Alien. There is something really unsettling and disturbing about Alien, and a fact that is pretty similar to what happened to you when you watched The Thing. And in both cases, people are pretty fast in saying, yeah, well, it's the design of the creatures and it's the gore. And there is no doubt that Alien is extremely graphic in its depiction of violence, especially when it comes to the early stages of the xenomorph development, the egg, the facehugger, the chestbuster. There are some really disturbing, explicit scenes. But I think there is something more at play, something that has to do with H.P. Lovecraft and his specific brand of horror. Because this is the other objection that you will get sometimes, like, yeah, well, Alien is a horror movie, none of the other movies that came after were horror movies. It looks like Romulus now is gonna try to be a horror movie, but defining something as a horror movie is not enough, because Alien was a very specific kind of horror movie. Now, at first glance, it would look like there is not so much to discuss when it comes to the structure of Alien, to the writing of Alien, because on the surface, we are just dealing with a slasher movie. It's basically Friday the 13th in space. The crew of the Nostromo meets the alien takes them out one by one last survivor remains, Ripley, there's a final confrontation, she kills the alien, and the movie ends. It's a very simple structure. But here's the thing, slasher movies in turn are just classic horror stories. The genial intuition of Carpenter with Halloween, which is the birth of the slasher movie, is the idea of like, what if the threat is not some creature, it's not the mummy or the werewolf or the creature from the Black Lagoon? What if it was your neighbor, bringing the horror closer to the audience? But structurally, we are still dealing with a classic horror story. And in a classic horror story, there is normally a subplot, take the first half of the story, which is concerned with the origin of whatever creature or villain you have encountered. Why did the mummy awake? How can we break the curse of the werewolf? Who's Jason? How comes that Freddy Krueger can sneak into people's dreams? And in most cases, that subplot is there because by learning what the creature is, you can learn how to defeat the creature. Alien has this exact subplot. It's a very subtle, obscure subplot, which is never made explicit. But O'Bannon and Shusett lay down a line of breadcrumbs for us to follow to try to understand what this creature is. The interesting aspect is that that subplot is not there to give the crew of the Nostromo the tools to defeat the alien. That subplot is there to convince them, and in turn us, that the creature cannot be defeated, because what they have encountered is not just a creature, it's an idea.
There's gotta be a way of killing it. How? How do we do it?
You can't.
Now, if you remember the movie starts with a very slow reveal of the title. We see these lines start forming on the background of deep space, and slowly they form the word alien. There is a statement. There is the movie saying, we're gonna show you something that is truly, absolutely alien, meaning outside of the realm of your experience. It is something that doesn't belong to the same plane of existence to which we belong. The first thing we find is the space jockey. The crew of the Nostromo arrive on the planet, find the spaceship, and find the space jockey. And the space jockey is fossilized, which is a process that takes an incredible long time. So we are already moving in a timescale that has more to do with space than with us. And from the space jockey, they find the eggs. And the eggs are fossilized as well, but they are also covered by a thin layer of reactive mist, suggesting that these eggs have been in some sort of hibernation for, once again, an incredible long time. But they have been ready, waiting for something to come closer so they could awake again. one of the eggs awake, it opens up, and here comes the facehugger, the first stage of the xenomorph. And this first stage has one goal and one goal only, which is latching onto whatever creature awoke the egg. When Ash analyzed the facehugger later, he tells Ripley this creature has a very interesting tendency to replace its outer cells with silicon, which makes it incredibly resistant to hostile conditions, which suggests that the facehugger, the first stage of the xenomorph, doesn't really know in what kind of environment it's going to awake. We don't have the need to replace our cells with silicons or any kind of protective system because we know in our genes where we're going to awake. We are aware of the kind of environment in which we're going to awake. No creature on Earth has that need, but the xenomorph has it. The xenomorph needs to be ready to deal with any kind of condition, suggesting it's a nomad creature. Once the embryo is implanted, the facehugger just simply dies, freeing the creature that is going to wake up, believing it's fine, and going back to whatever group it came from, carrying with it the chest buster. The chest buster is going to explode out of its chest, going to grow into a full-grown creature through mechanisms that are never made clear in the movie, and then it's going to start hunting down its prey. Now, there is an incredibly interesting scene in the director's cut in which, at the end of the movie, Ripley is moving through the spaceship, the Nostromo, and she finds Dallas, who's been turning into an egg. The xenomorph had done something to him that is turning him into an egg. That is a very interesting detail because it's telling us two things. First of all, that those eggs at the beginning, that's the crew of the spaceship. That's all that's left of the crew of the spaceship. And second, then what this alien does, he awakes, he kills everything he finds and turns everybody he finds into eggs. So if the xenomorph had his way with the Nostromo, all that would have been left of them would be a bunch of eggs, until somebody would eventually find a Nostromo, like a rescue mission, and would bring back both the spaceship and the eggs for the cycle to begin again. Now, when you connect the dots of everything O'Bannon and Shasset lay down for us, it's pretty easy to see that this creature seems to be adapted to live in deep space. The movie never goes as far as telling us that this is the truth, but if you connect all the dots, the fossilized eggs and the space jockey, the reactive mist, the facehugger who just interacts with one creature, the silicon skin, it seems pretty clear that this creature has evolved to live in deep space. So in a way, it's a representation of deep space. It's a representation of the void, the swallow life, because this is truly a genocidal machine whose only interaction with whatever life form it encounters is complete and absolute annihilation. And this is exactly where the influence of H.P. Lovecraft becomes evident in Alien.
The thing that makes Lovecraft's work so astonishing is it isn't just there to inspire fear or loathing. Those are the side dressing on the sense of cosmic amazement that Lovecraft had, contemplation of the universe, very similar to Einstein. Both of them thought the universe was the ultimate source of awe and terror, in the sense of fear of God. Not that they believe in God.
A classic horror story conceptualized the supernatural as an aberration that needs to be expelled. Think about Dracula, or think about Frankenstein, or think about The Mummy, or think about The Exorcist, for example, which is considered by some the origin of modern horror in movies. And it is, visually, stylistically, absolutely. It's a very innovative movie. But structurally speaking, the structure of the story is incredibly classical. You start with a family. It's not a super conventional family because the movie has, as I said before, superficial modern elements. But still, it's a family. It's a functional family. Then Regan gets possessed. And of course, her mother, being a modern person, she doesn't immediately think, oh, he's a demon. She thinks like, oh, there must be something wrong with my daughter. So she goes to a psychiatrist. She do a series of tests on her daughter, only to eventually comes to the realization, no, there is something supernatural at play here. The subplot I was talking about before, the subplot about the origin or the nature of the threat. Once this is identified as a supernatural threat, here comes the exorcist, here comes the fight to expel this aberration, which is the supernatural, to destroy this aberration that is the supernatural, so we can go back to the normal world. We go full circle, right? We start from the natural world, something happened and destroyed the natural order of things, and then we go back to the natural order of things. A natural order of things that is built around us. We belong This is our world and it's our duty to protect it somehow. We shouldn't venture in some parts of it, we should respect its laws, but as long as we do that, we're fine. Because this is our world, we belong to this place. It's a consolatory structure by nature. Lovecraft stories don't work this way. In Lovecraft, the horror comes from the realization that this is not our world, that we don't belong, that we are the aberration. If you think about something like At the Mountain of Madness or so many of the stories built around the ancient ones, the idea is that this is their world. We are the jesters, we are the experiment, we are a footnote. Meaning that in Lovecraft stories, we don't go full circle. The character's idea of the universe shatter throughout the story. And it's not by accident that Lovecraft was writing in the decades of Einstein relativity or quantum mechanics, which were the last steps in the marginalization of the human experience that started with the idea that no, the Earth is not the center of the universe. And that is the kind of anxiety that Lovecraft used in his story. The supernatural is not something that, it's not an aberration that needs to be expelled. It's a revelation that the world is not what you were expecting it to be. The reality is different. It's something else from what you would like it to be. So there is no going back to the normal world, because the idea of the normal world gets shattered throughout the course of the story. You can see the same mechanism used in something like Night of the Living Dead from Romero, which in my opinion is the real birth of modern horror movies. Because yeah, visually, not at all. It's a black and white movie. It's really over the top in terms of acting and writing. But structurally speaking, Romero does something devastating. Because zombies, when you think about it, they're not scary because they are particularly threatening as a monster. They are slow, stupid, weak. They're very easy to kill compared to any other monster you can think of. The only two things they have going for them is the fact that there are so many of them and that they never stop. And in Romero views, there's nothing supernatural about zombies. In the original movie, it's just like a satellite came back from space and brought something that we don't even know what it is. So it's a pseudo-scientific explanation that completely removed the supernatural. And that's what makes zombies terrifying. When we see them coming, their embodiment is telling us, this is you. This is what you are. There is no God. There is no devil. You're just meat. You're just rotting meat governed by instincts. And yeah, you can kill me. You can kill all of us. But you cannot forget what I'm telling you just by existing, that this is what you are. And the fascinating thing, the element that Romero added, in my opinion, to what Lovecraft was doing, is the idea that he's telling that to us. As the audience, we register that message, that we want it or not, because it's a physical representation of death coming at us and telling us, this is what you are. The Romero movies, even when the characters survive, ends always on a negative note. You can feel that there is no going back. The characters can maybe survive the story, but they cannot escape this new reality they have entered. And neither can we. When you move to Alien, you see the same mechanism at play. They encounter something that is a physical representation of how irrelevant we are in the grand scheme of things. I can imagine Shasset and O'Bannon discussing, well, we're writing a movie about people going into space, which is a place in which we shouldn't be. If we could transform this into a creature, the creature wouldn't just be terrifying because of the way it looks. Of course, Giger design is fundamental to turn this concept into something physical. But that creature is first and foremost terrifying because it represents something that we cannot hope to defeat, which is how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things. It's a physical representation of the murderous nature of space, in a way. This is significantly different from just a creature movie, in which, oh, there's the werewolf, it's horrifying, whatever. Yeah, but it can be killed and we can go back to what we were doing before. Here's like, no, we have encountered something that cannot be killed. It cannot be defeated. And that theme, you can see it running underneath the story in the action of Dallas, in stuff that Ash says, which is all kind of obscure. It's not exactly clear. Why is Ash saying you cannot defeat this creature? When you see the movie, you feel like, why not? I mean, it can be killed. But it's kind of suggesting exactly this. What you have encountered is not just one creature, it's an idea. The brilliance of all of this is precisely the fact that this is never made explicit. This works so well because the screenplay that is built around this creature that represents an idea is built in such a way to invite us in the story. When aliens begin, we can feel immediately that, oh, these people have been knowing each other for a long time. There is some history behind their back. They look like they don't really like each other anymore, that they are kind of fed up with one another. This is a world we step in. We're gonna see some pieces of it. But the movie is not gonna take us by hand and tell us everything. And when a movie does that, when a story does that, you start paying attention. You start like trying to understand how to connect the dots, to see the truth that the movie is trying to just suggest. And then when the creatures enter the picture, you do the same thing. And the movie is there, giving you subtle hints about what is this creature for real? What does it represent? And you connect the dots and you see this picture, which is extremely disturbing. And the most important thing, it stays with you once the movie is over.